Welcome everyone to the Soul Style Slay series. Today's inspo is a striped palazzo pants and a black crop top. So luckily I found this gorgeous striped fabric that I'll be using to make the pants, and it's super lightweight and flowy just as I wanted, as well as this black stretch knit for the top. So we're starting off by assembling our tools. Here I have a rotary cutter, a French curve, a tiny scissors, and a long ruler. Let's go. So first we'll go ahead and fold our pants fabric, placing raw edges together, right side to right side, and we'll be folding it twice. This will give us two pant legs, and we'll just cut it in one go to make everything super easy and faster. Now I'll be using a shorts pattern that I have and basically extending it down to a pants. So it doesn't matter if you have a pants pattern or a shorts pattern, both would do just fine. Here I'm taking my ruler and I'm measuring out my waist circumference. You're going to then divide that by 4 to get the desired measurement for your waist. At this point, I decided that I wanted a really high-waisted palazzo pants, and so I'll be measuring down about 3 inches at the top for that extension and then placing my pattern there. So I'm going ahead to cut out the crotch area. I'm using a rotary cutter for a more smoother cut, but a scissors would do just as fine. I'm then going to take my scissors and make a snip where the pant leg should end, and I'm going to now measure down my length of the pants. So here I measured about 49 inches, which should give a high-waisted look and end at about ankle length. I'm gonna snip this and just rip the fabric straight across. Moving on to the pant pockets, I'm creating some side pockets and I also have a pattern for that. So I'm just placing the pattern on the fabric and we'll be cutting all the way around. Moving on to the top, I'm just testing the fabric to see which side has the most stretch in it, and this is the side that I'll be using for my cross width. We're then going to go ahead and place the fabric on fold, and we'll be using a pattern for our top. I'm sorry guys if it's out of frame a bit, it got cut off accidentally. So we'll be cutting out the back of the top first, and I'm using just a little frame for weights to help to hold down my fabric so that when I'm cutting around it, it doesn't shift around as much. We're going to do the same thing for the front pattern for our top. Simply use your rotary cutter. Mine is a bit dull, so I had to go around it again with my scissors, but just ensure that your blades are always super sharp for a more precise cut. Next we'll be cutting out our sleeves and the strips for the ties at the front. It's time for my favorite part, sewing. So first we'll be taking our pants over to the serger and we'll just serge the raw edges starting at the crotch all the way down. The next step is to reinforce this with a straight stitch. So I'm moving back to the sewing machine and I'm going to follow this line all the way around. Once you're done, you're going to go ahead and open up the pants at the crotch, and we're going to place our pant pockets on each side. I measured down about 4 inches and we're going to place a stitch at the sides of the pockets. So all that's left to do is basically serge the rest of the pants, that is the side seam and the inseam. I decided to add some elastic to the waist of my pants because I find that it adds a more comfortable fit when there's elastic band in the waist. So here I'm measuring out my elastic, which measures about 1.5 inches wide, and I'm going to use the waist of the pants to cover it to ensure that I have enough coverage to stitch and hide this elastic. So about 2 inches down should do the trick. So I'm just double checking that it measures 2 inches, and I'm going to do this all the way around, placing pins as I go along. Taking this over to the sewing machine, I am going to stitch down right at the serge edges, ensuring that there is enough space in the waistline to accommodate the elastic band. I am then going to take a safety pin and place it at the end of my elastic band. This safety pin will act as a tool for feeding the elastic through the waist, and it does the job, I must say. So once you've gone all the way around, you're going to pull through your elastic, remove that safety pin, and we're going to overlap the elastic band. I'm going to pin it in place for now, and we're going to go ahead and stitch it down using either a zigzag stitch or a straight stitch. However, with the straight stitch method, you are going to create a box or a rectangle in this case, which basically adds extra security for your elastic band. Moving on to the top, we're going to place our bodice right sides together at the shoulders, and as usual we'll go ahead and serge first and then place a securing straight stitch alongside that serge edge. So at this point I decided that my top was just a little bit too plain, so I am going to add a collar. So I did go ahead and cut out the pattern for my collar, and I'm going to sew around all 3 edges. I am then going to go ahead and open up my collar, and I really want some pointy edges, so I'm going to take my scissors and basically poke through to ensure that the edges come out as far as possible. I'm then going to go back to the sewing machine and place a stitch just to hold everything down because the fabric is kind of stretchy, and this should do the trick. And this is how my collar is looking, guys. Nice and neat. I'm going to iron this down so it lays flat, and then we'll go ahead and place it on our top. Just giving a little preview of how the top is looking so far with the collar just pinned on temporarily, and I'm loving it thus far. I'm so happy I decided to add a collar after all. So I'm going to be using some bias strips to help to attach the collar, as well as to clean up the edges off the top. So I'm doing the double fold method here at the edge of my top, where I basically fold the fabric or the bias strip onto itself, place a pin to hold it in place, and then we're going to stitch it down all the way around. And lastly, we're going to go ahead and attach the ties to the front of the top. Remember those strips that we had cut out? Well, I basically used it to create a channel, and this is what we'll use for our front ties. I wanted these ties to be extra long so it can be wrapped around the waist maybe once or twice, and I think the length is about 30 inches long for each tie. So I'm just using a straight stitch to attach it to the top, and then we'll basically hunker it down once more so it stays in place. So the final step would be to go over and snip up any loose threads that you may have, and we're basically done.
It's something about the way you stare into my eyes. I know that I don't make things clear. I fall for you every time I try to resist you. We can get away. Palm trees, beach views, ordinary day. All I wanna hear is in the dishes I replay. Sit right next to you.